Hosting for the Dice Tower is generously provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. Thanks for your support. The Dice Tower, episode 470.
Stressing games.
Stressing? Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, we play some catch-up on some segments, including a biography of Ticket to Ride and suggestions on games your coworkers might like. Also, our breakdown of Gen Con, reviews of Seafall, Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu, and more, and we end the show with our top 10 stress-inducing games. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Gordon Ramsay of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
I feel like I should go on a rant here about something or someone. I've never seen such a bunch of incompetent game designers in my life.
Every time you talk to me, my blood pressure goes up.
Well, you know, I felt slightly Gordon Ramsay-ish when talking a bit to Delta this week.
Yes. Yes, you had a bit of an adventure this week, didn't you?
Well, I mean, it's hard to complain too much when I would imagine 100,000 other people had the adventure.
Right. It was just a big mess for everyone. I was glad I made it home when I did.
Yeah. Sam and Z, we were talking about, they said that they like the fact that, see, normally when I get fights, I'm like, crack of dawn, let's go. And I'm always like, wah! And they're both like, well, what are we doing? I got it. So this time I said, all right, we'll go home on Monday and we'll wait till Monday evening. So we wait till Monday evening and we go and we get caught up in this big traffic jam and all the fights aren't leaving, and eventually we realize we're not going to get out at midnight like we thought we were. And so they put us up in a hotel where we get up at the crack of dawn anyway. The next morning to then fly all day long to then get home and find out we had no luggage. And finally we've got it 2 days later. So it was interesting to say the least.
Yes. But it's good to be, I'm glad you're home.
I'm glad I'm home too.
And it's good to just sort of get back into the swing of things and calm down a little bit. We have a couple of normal shows, and we can just enjoy the fact that the storm has calmed a little bit.
Really, it has. This is really downhill from here. Yes, we have Essen, BGG Con, the cruise, and a convention in Connecticut in a month. But that stuff, it's hard to explain. It really is kind of a sliding board down. I mean, Essen, don't get me wrong, Essen's a big bump.
Essen's going to be big. Yeah, I'm not really not worried about Essen.
But we don't put the massive planning into Essen yet that we do into Gen Con.
Okay.
At Gen Con, I had to figure out who would be here, who would do this. At Essen, we have a booth, and we need to, staff that booth, but we basically just say, you staff it here, so on and so forth.
It's a smaller group.
It is a smaller group. Yeah, that's true. And it seems bigger. But we'll talk a bit about Gen Con later. We did have a Gen Con contest, and one of our songs that me and Steve performed at the end, Bonacor, was written by Warren Madden, who, so congratulations.
Yes.
And the song that you had, Eric, did you write it, or was that an entry?
The fugue for Bonacors was me.
Was Eric. So sorry about that, everyone. But we did have the Tale of Horror with the dice. So
yes.
That is John Brokey. So he wrote that Tale of Horror, and so that is congratulations to him.
Absolutely.
And I know that a lot of people wrote some great stuff and sent in. We got a lot of entries, and we really appreciate all the entries from Tales of Horror, and the different songs and such. But it's hard to explain how we pick on this one. It's very subjective. It just, when you feel it, you know it.
Well, certainly for the Tale of Horror, I nearly jumped out of my seat when reading it in the first place and said, that is it. That's the one.
I didn't think it was as horrific as Eric, but I thought that would be funny to do on stage.
Well, also, we were looking for a particular thing that would work well on stage, and I really appreciate it. If you really like the lyrics from the song parodies that we did, there is a thread in the Dice Tower Guild on Board Game Geek that lists the lyrics in case you missed it in the heat of the moment. So
anyhow, this is probably one of the two highest points of the year for me playing games. The other is after Essen.
Right.
And this is when you look at your pile of games to play, and they all look super fun.
Yes.
I mean, like, fun. And I mean, eventually you get through them, and you find out that some are not as fun as you might think.
True, but the potential's there.
That's true. So speaking of potential, let me talk about a potential game, Seafall.
Yes.
Have you heard of this game, Eric?
In passing, someone mentioned it. Yeah, tell us about it.
Now, I'm very excited about Seafall because Seafall is a legacy game. It is the third legacy game. I know there's a few other games that they're claiming to be legacy, but they're not. It's a third legacy game. It's by Rob W., who did the first two, Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy. Risk Legacy was a surprise hit. Pandemic Legacy was, I believe, a smash hit?
I would call it that, yeah.
Yeah, it's rocketing to number one on Board Game Geek, selling more copies than a game of that type should ever be expected to sell, being nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, winning the Dice Tower Awards, so just a lot going on with Pandemic Legacy.
Right, I even saw many people clutching copies of Pandemic Legacy at this year's Gen Con, still excited to have copies in their hands, so it's still doing very well.
Now, Seafall is a very different beast than those two. With Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy, you go into them knowing the game already. With Seafall Legacy, it's a completely new game. And so you're going to spend the first game and a half just learning how to play. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like with Pandemic Legacy, you're like, oh, this is like Pandemic.
Right. And
let's add stuff in. So with Seafall Legacy, the game, and this is not really a spoiler. If you guys think this is a spoiler, I don't know what else to do to you. Then we spoil every game we review.
Exactly.
I'm just talking about how the game itself is played, not the secret stuff in the boxes.
The basic mechanisms of the original first game.
That's right, except in this game, there's a prologue. And the prologue doesn't have any major lasting effects on the game, like each other game does have a major effect on the game. Things happen. The prologue does not, and it's essentially how to teach you how to play the game.
Okay.
I fear that they may have misstepped here, because I feel, and so far I feel like it's everyone I've talked to feels the same way, that the prologue is quite boring. But not like 20 minutes boring, like an hour and a half to 2 hours boring.
Oh, like a bad taste in your mouth, and do you really want to continue kind of boring?
Well, I want it to continue because it's like, there's something good. I'm eating through the crust of this pie, but I know there's cherries in there.
Okay,
feeling,
all right.
Right? And even the first game, I was like, okay, this is okay of a game, but is there more? And then when I got the more, I was like, oh, okay, this is much more interesting now. But this is I know that people have different opinions on heavy and medium and light, but this is pretty close to a heavy Euro game.
Oh, okay.
And Eric will like it because there's a lot of pickup and delivery in it.
Is there?
You already knew that.
I actually don't know a lot about this game other than just a couple of teasers. So this is actually news to me.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. It's essentially, you both. I mean, each person is a province. They're like some little colony type thing, and they have you have these two ships, and you can go around and you can pick up cubes and deliver them and buy and sell for different amounts of money, or you can attack things, or you can explore out there. So there's some exploration and attacking, and the exploration leans incredibly heavily on a book which would be very similar to that found in Tales of Arabian Nights, like a choose your own adventure book.
Cool.
And this book is pretty prominent in this game, as you will find things and it will unlock things. And there are advisors that you can hire that will allow you special abilities that you can do on your turn, or they will actually enhance the different actions that you do. And there's other stuff that you will find as you go through.
Okay.
And I'm sure that I will find even more stuff, because this box, I think, I believe there was, six. Six sounds right. Yeah, six. There's 6 boxes full of stuff in this game. So far, I've opened one of these boxes.
Okay.
And I was just amazed with how much content was in that box.
How many games in are you at this point?
We are nigh the end of our second game.
Whoa, okay.
we played the prologue and the first game, and you can go watch a video review where we gave our impressions of that. But then we sat down and played through the second game, and we're pretty much done with it, but due to time, had to go. And for the first time in a long time, my Rathskeller table came in handy, and I'm now sitting on the planks, my stuff's on the planks covering the game, which is still set up and ready to go. And the first thing that we'll be doing next week is finishing that game. There was probably only 20, 30 minutes left, but we just did not have 20, 30 minutes left, and then plus cleanup. Right?
It's been a crazy second half of your week.
It has been. But my opinion has gone up dramatically upon opening that first box and finding the content there. Okay. And so the game is becoming more and more open. Because I had kept this whole thing as a surprise to me, it being a heavy Euro game was really not what I had expected at all. I don't know what I expected. I was just thinking like some kind of Risk style game.
Yeah.
There's combat in it and stuff, but I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see how things go. The combat is increasing as time goes by.
Okay.
But it's again, it's just longer. Each of our games is easily taking over 2 hours. Easily. Wow. Maybe 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Which is just, and the back of the rule book shows a total of 20 some plus games. I don't think it will be that many.
Okay.
It seems like there may be a, that's like the most this will ever be, type thing.
But you think there's like an end game objective or something that will end things before then?
I don't know. This is not really spoilerish, but the game itself is like a colonial era style game. All right, you're going out in these things, and I was like, oh, okay. But there are hints that there is a deeper, much more involved story behind this.
Okay.
Now, the story is not as cohesive as Pandemic Legacy, and that's because this game has a lot more branches. You remember Risk Legacy? The story itself wasn't very cohesive because you could open things at different times.
Yeah, you could branch out in whatever order happened to organically come up with your games.
And the same thing is happening here because you will discover different things at different times. Therefore, the game can't have a straightforward, cohesive story. I don't know which of those I like better because I thought I liked Risk Legacy better, but man, that story was so powerful in Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah.
There's several events in Pandemic Legacy that when they happen, I would say they happen at thirds during the game. Mm-hmm. And you're like, and you will remember those. And when we meet them, we'll go, so what happened to you guys in September or whatever? Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm intrigued. I'm enjoying it more now. I feel like the game opened up a whole lot more. I would urge anyone who gets it and plays it to, even if you're not a big fan of that first game and a half, Rob said on his Twitter and stuff that these are meant to be really good tutorials rather than like a game. I'm not sure that I would have done that as a game company because you really want to grab people out the front gate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And this game I don't think is going to do that. You're going to play it for the hope of great things.
Okay.
And I still don't know if the game itself is great, but I have still high hopes.
You're seeing that potential.
Mr. Davio has not let me down yet.
All right.
So that's...
Well, you certainly piqued my interest. I've been hesitant a little bit. I mean, still excited about this game, but this is probably not one that I'm going to be able to play with my wife and son like I
can guarantee you, unless your son is like some super advanced child, that you will not be able to play it with your son in any kind of meaningful way.
Okay. But now hearing about the pick up and deliver aspect, the exploration aspect, I'm still pretty excited. Yeah,
the problem is it's going to be this one, unlike the other two, you need a dedicated group.
Really?
Well, I'm playing it with Sam and Z and Derek, and I told them, you guys are locked in this. Now I have that fortunate ability to be able to
be their boss and say you're locked into this.
Derek was like, well, there's worse things I could do for money.
Yep.
So, I mean, you got to have that ability to do that. The rules actually there's some detailed things on the rules on how to drop people in and out, but it's like an event type thing to do that because in this game you play the same province all the way through.
You're tied to that faction.
Right. So it's not like Pandemic Legacy. I would not recommend people drop in and out, but you can. I could catch someone up to speed and say, this is where we are now, blah, 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 blah. With Seafall, I feel like there would be so many mechanisms by that point that you might have a much harder time doing it.
Mm.
So that's a hot game. But Eric has also played a hot game.
I have. We talked about Pandemic Legacy, and here's Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, taking that system in a different direction from Z-Man Games. In Reign of Cthulhu, you've got different cities in the Lovecraftian universe. There's Arkham, and there's I'm totally blanking on the names of these now. Dunwich, and these 4 cities, and they represent the 4 colors that you will be collecting.
Innsmouth.
Yes, Innsmouth.
Dunwich.
Yes.
And Spooky Town.
In Spooky Town, yes. So each one of these towns has a gate, and the object of the game is to close the gate in each of these towns, and they're all color-coded. And so you need to collect, say, 5 purple cards in order to close the gate in the purple town. Once you have done that, you have won the game. And that's the primary, similarity to primary Pandemic, is that you're collecting the cards and you're trying to cure the disease, close the gate. Each turn, you're going to get 4 actions. You've got characters with special abilities, much like standard Pandemic. Travel is easier on this version of the game because it's a smaller map. There are fewer dots on the board, and also the cards are not tied to a particular area in those towns. They're just, the card says Innsmouth. And so you can travel. If you go to a bus station, there are bus stations on the board. If you go to a bus station, play an Innsmouth card, you can travel anywhere in Innsmouth. There you go. If you're already in Innsmouth and go to one of those bus stations, you can travel anywhere on the board. It's also easier to trade cards because you're just trading blue. If I'm in blue and you're in blue, we can trade blue. Or actually, if we're in the same, we have to be in the same city. But we can trade blue from any city in blue. Then there's the bad guys. They are cultists in this version of the game, and if you get 3 of them, they don't explode like they would in any other Pandemic version. Instead, they're going to trigger the awakening of an elder god. There's a whole row of these guys up on the top. There's 7 of them, 7 cards. The last one's Cthulhu. If he flips over, you've lost. It says, Cthulhu devours the world and you lose. It's like, okay.
We played one game where I forgot to separate Cthulhu out.
Oh, really?
So I just shuffled them all up randomly, and the very first card we flipped over said, Cthulhu devours the world. And Z was like, this game seems awfully fast.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. So Cthulhu's last, and then there's 6 others. And these will also flip over when it's like Evil Awakens cards. There's 4 of those in the deck. They're kind of like the epidemics. They'll flip over when that happens, and they can flip over if you get an outbreak, a 4th cultist going in one zone, and ordinarily they would explode, but they don't here. You just flip over an elder god. These gods bring out additional constrictions on you. They might be a one-time event that causes you to discard cards, or bad effects come at you, or they could be a rule that sticks with you for the rest of the game. That can be really nasty. Instead of needing 5 cards, you may need 5 cards plus a neighboring town's card in order to close a gate. The gates help you travel around, but once you've closed them, you can no longer go through them. There's also another figurine. There are 3 Shuggoths, bigger, nastier demon thingies that get brought out. They get brought out when the Evil Awakens cards come out. They're sort of the draw from the bottom of the evil deck and put a Shuggoth in that zone. Each of the nasty cards, the bad cards, may or may not have a symbol that causes these Shuggoths to move. If they're going to move toward the nearest open gate when that happens, and if they are already on an open gate when you draw one of those symbols, it causes another one of the elder gods to show up. Another nasty thing, speeds up the timer and really messes with you. In order to get rid of the Shuggoths, it takes 3 of your 4 actions to destroy them, unless you've got the cool special character that can get rid of them easily.
Which you should use in every game.
Which you should definitely use. And yeah, I think that's just about it. So it in some ways it's easier than standard Pandemic, but then those global effects make it get harder quickly. I found it to be a different animal than Pandemic. I was a little worried it was just going to be a reskin. It was interesting in those new mechanisms. It was difficult. At first I was like, this is simple. And then a couple of those Elder Gods show up and oh my goodness, this gets a lot trickier, and we won just barely by the skin of our teeth. So certainly the difficulty is there. I think you can ramp it up or down a little bit by starting with more nasty things on the board. It was interesting. And also a neat note is that Z-Man assumes that you're going to paint your figures because the tray, the insert for this, has individual compartments for the 3 Shuggoths and all, I think, 7 of the player characters. They're in separate trays, which is kind of neat. It confused me at first because I'm not used to that sort of thing. I was like, what are all these little things for? There aren't that many types of tokens. But that's how that works. Oh, wait! I forgot something. You can go insane. Because, of course, you have sanity. And using the items, they call them relics here. It's easier to get some of those. You get them as rewards when you get rid of the Shuggoths. But when you use them, you have to roll a sanity die, which can cause you to lose 1 or 2 of your sanity tokens. And if you go insane, you flip over your character card, and now you have a different character power, a nerfed one, and you have 1 fewer action than you used to. If, however, you close a gate while you're nuts, you wake up in the hospital, and now you're back to normal, wondering, whoa, what happened? Pretty cool. I was very happy with this, and I was surprised my wife was interested to play it. She enjoyed it as well. It's a neat game. Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu from Z-Man.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've enjoyed it. Now, my question to you is, if you could only keep this or regular Pandemic, which would you keep?
I'd have to keep standard. I mean,
Why?
for one thing, the illustrations, totally appropriate for the theme, but not one that I really want my kids hanging around. Some of those Elder Gods are pretty scary in the illustrations. And so, regular Pandemic is just so much more accessible.
Yes. When I play this game, it feels a bit more claustrophobic than Pandemic. The board is really tight. And sometimes it's hard to say, here comes the medic. No, it's not the medic. It's the hunter.
It's true. Yes. I mean, there's a few analogs to the basic version. Okay, well, we are taking a lot of time talking about games, so I'm just going to talk about one more, but there's another big one, so yay. This one is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Now, the original Mansions of Madness was a game in which you went into a mansion or some giant building, and bad things happened to you. Mostly bad guy, Cthulhu-type guys. I'm feeling this Cthulhu theme here. Cthulhu guys showed up, and you would fight them, and then you would solve puzzles. And the game was really entertaining. It had some cool monster figures, and it wasn't really about fighting monsters as much as it was about maximizing how you went through this thing. And you could search through different piles of items and find things. And when the monsters showed up, you could beat the monsters, kind of, sort of. They were pretty powerful. It wasn't like you were a warrior. You're like a librarian, who happened to go in here and has found a shovel or something. So Betrayal at House, I'm saying Betrayal House, Mansions of Madness, 2nd Edition, they added an app to this game where instead of you say?
Yes, why?
I'm just curious. I like apps.
Oh, okay. Well, the original game, one person played the Dungeon Master per se. The problem with the original game, and its biggest weakness was, in my opinion, was that if you made a mistake setting up the game, and it wasn't like it was that difficult to make a mistake. They'd be like, here's 4 of these items. You need to put 1 in this room, 1 in this room, 1 in this room, 1 in this room. And if you put the wrong thing, like you could go, I need a key to get through that door. Oh, yeah, that key's behind that door. Stuff like that's possible to do because you have to set the game up a little randomly, but also make sure you put the right stuff in the right piles.
Right.
I'm just saying it happened where sometimes that would mess up. So the app takes care of all that for you. The app actually has the randomization built into it. The app also has sound effects, and it has, scripting done with such excellent narration. I've never heard better game narration.
Oh, really?
No, it's fine. But it's really intriguing. You go and you turn on the app, and the app says, okay, here you are. Here's the room you're in. Boom. And that's all it shows you. And it'll say, it will show different things on the app. Say, here's some piles. So you take the stuff out of the board game. You set the map up just like the app. And you go through and, okay, here's your actions, my actions, my actions. Okay, everyone's done taking your actions. Boom, here's what happened. And something creepy might happen. But they can easily do randomized effects, right? Because it's an app. And the app handles that stuff so well. A monster comes. Here's what the monster does. Okay, here's how I fight the monster. Great. I'm going to fight him this way, and this is what happens. And you still roll dice outside the app. You still put the monster plastic figures on the board and your figures. You can see where everything is moving around the map. And you have to tell the app when stuff's dead. But wow, it just really brought life to this game. It brought this Cthulhu mythos to life. I was really pleased by it. It was... I don't play games solo, and I want to play this one solo. Okay. Because wow. I know I can. I can just set it up, and after we went through our mission and maybe died, I said, okay, I'm going to start this mission up again and see how different it is. And it was different. It was the same thing, right? You had to go do the same thing, but the room layout was different, and where the different things were different, and when things happened was slightly different. And I thought that was neat. And there was 4 missions included. I'll probably never play the last one because it says 240 to 360 minutes. But I'm assuming they'll be adding more. And the game even comes with a built-in backwards compatibility kit where you can say, I have the old Arkham Horror stuff. Well, great. Boom. You just click some buttons and that's added to the app too. The app is free. The app is necessary. You must have the app to play this game. And this is an excellent combination of app and board game, especially if you happen to have a table that has speakers built into it.
Nice.
And this is one of the times where they came in super handy. Lots of fun. Really enjoyable. Highly recommend it. I'm probably adding this to my collection as much as I like it.
Very cool. I never got to play the original, so this
you can skip it now.
Yeah.
Never play the original. Just get this one.
Could cross that one off the list.
So that's Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
All right, since we're talking about one more, I'll throw in AEG's Yahtzee variant fantasy game. It's called Fantahzee, but good luck spelling that. That's Fantahzee, like Yahtzee. Get it?
I thought it was like maybe Fantahzee.
Fantahzee. No, it's Fantahzee. So you are using the familiar Yahtzee mechanism. You've got a bunch of dice, and you will roll them usually 3 times and save the result. You can save some dice and roll again, and then adjust them. You are activating cards from your hand. On each turn, you can play 2 action cards, or up to 2 action cards, and up to 2 character cards. These character cards come in different classes, and they use different dice combinations to activate them. So you may need a pair of 5s to activate this guy. You may need any 3 of the same die to activate this guy over here. And so you're using your 3 rolls to do this. And you can also activate in the middle of your rolls. So I could roll once, activate a guy that gives me additional dice or an additional roll, or lets me manipulate the dice in some way, and then continue my turn in that fashion. Once I'm done with all of those rolls, I will have activated a certain number of guys that all have attack power, and there's a line of bad guys in the center of the table. They're actually different piles, so there's sort of really nasty guys on the bottom of the piles and weaker guys on the top of the piles. But one of these piles is right next to the gates of the village, the castle. And if you don't defeat the guy that's right in front of the gates, they're going to destroy some element of the village, like, oh, the church fell down and now you get negative points. So you want to try and get rid of the guy that's in front. And they all have defense values, and you're trying to overcome that. Get rid of as many of them as you can, but many of them will fight back. So any of your guys that you activated, if you activated them, they're part of the force that went against the bad guy, and the bad guys may have a counterattack. They may have some other effects that affect your guys, and some of them will get knocked out. So then you have to discard those guys and hopefully replace them on a future turn. You then get to draw 4 cards and move on to the next player. It was interesting. I liked the building up of your force. You start out with just a couple of guys. You may lose a few in the first few rounds, but then as the guys, the the villains get more difficult, you then have a larger force to activate. And there's some synergies here. If you get a bunch of mages, they can sort of play off of each other and give you benefits, and really sort of pushing your force in that direction is a neat strategic decision, despite the fact that you're rolling a whole bunch of dice. But I was able to chuck like 15 dice at one point with the way that my mages were able to activate. Once a certain number of these piles have been totally depleted, once you've knocked out a certain number of boss characters, I think it's 3, then we finish off the equal number of turns, most points wins. Each of the bad guys is worth a certain number of points. I enjoyed it. It was not a run out and buy for me. But I did enjoy the game, and I think it would work well. It's more complicated than King of Tokyo, if you're looking at the complexity scale. More complicated than King of Tokyo, but I think it could still work with the family non-gamerish groups. But it is certainly more complex than King of Tokyo or New York. But I liked it. Fantahzee from AEG.
Yeah, I have high hopes for this one, but I have high hopes for lots of things. I just like Yahtzee-style games, I think. Well, I did not expect us to talk so long about just a few games. There are so many more games to talk about, but it's time to fix a previous episode.
Oh, yes, please. What happened, Tom?
Can I blame you?
You can blame me if you want. You can blame me for sending you stuff too late. I'll accept that.
Can I blame Delta?
Yes. Yes, it's Delta's fault.
No, what happened was Eric sent me the files, but I went to bed early. It's the first time I think ever before a convention I was like, I'm going to go to bed early and be prepared. So I did. I got up early for our Delta flight, so I can blame Delta. And it's like, oh, I didn't put the episode together. Eric sent to me. I was like, all right, pull up the script. I put everything together, but I was looking at the wrong script. So I put everything together. I just stuck in the segments from the previous show.
Yep.
So it was mostly new stuff from me and Eric, but we did not have the sweet spot and biography of a board game and blah, 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 blah. Here they are now. Sorry about that. This is actually new content, probably, unless I do this again.
Hope, in theory.
You just hit the sweet spot.
Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Flaherty from the Sweet Spot, and today we're going to talk about the best games of the 80s, 90s, and today. And right now, what I want to talk about is the games that you'll have a great time playing at work that'll break ice, get people to like you, build social bonds, and bring them into the huddle. So how do you do this? Well, you want to have games that are fun, colorful, nice to look at, engaging, and accessible, both in terms of topic and difficulty. So here's a few suggestions. Let's get started. Well, number 1, Milborns. That is the game. It's the French card game that's like from the 50s, and they still sell it in like the retro design. And you are cars trying to go 1,000 miles. You're playing cards that you draw from the deck that hopefully get you to move forward in time, like 50 miles, 100 miles, stuff like this. But at the same time, you can blow up other people, mess up their tire, put them behind a car accident, put them at a stop sign. You at the same time can put down things to avoid it from happening to you. They can put things down to avoid you messing them up. So maybe you wasted your turn, stuff like this. So it's actually a cool little game. It's very easy to understand. Everyone likes it. And you can bring more people into it, but it's best in a 2-player game. If you're playing with people who play games a little bit more often and maybe you only have one other partner, go with Star Realms. Star Realms is really cool. You build those combos. Very easy to understand. I actually like the art, and I think it's better than Ascension, because Ascension to me is not interactive. There's also Cthulhu Realms, which to me is overly complicated. I don't remember what half the symbols mean, and I got to keep referencing, oh, did I play this? Now I got to go back, and then, stuff like that. Okay, next, you can try Fleet, where you get licenses and you get captains, and then you go out crab fishing, then you turn into the refinery, and then it kind of cascades and builds up from there. That's a really cool game, and I like the theme and the little blue ship stuff, that the little blue cubes. Those are pretty cool. Now my wife would not like it, because if I said to her, I'm like, hey babe, you want to play a game about crab boats? She'd be like, nah, that's cool. I'm going to go put, I don't know, whatever, Married to a Millionaire on. So for her, though, she likes Tides of Time. And that's great because that's an awesome game, and I like that too. And, the same idea, you got 3 rounds. What you do in the first round affects the second round. You're building up points. I think, when I started, I had like 16 points, but by the end when I was playing, I was getting like 64. So it's really cool seeing those combos build up. After that, you can play Flux. Now, I think I heard Tom... I guess Tom doesn't like it, but Eric does, or maybe they both don't. But I love Flux. I got it for free at a Barnes & Noble tabletop event. I always heard about it, but people kind of shot it down. Some people said it was a better version of Munchkin, and when I played it, it was a total blast. The regular show version is actually my favorite because I think the art and the humor of it complements the overall design. The Monty Python one is an abomination. It is so hard to look at. I can't deal with that one. Okay, Citadels. There's a 2-player version, which I actually like. That's a great game, and it might be an oldie, but it's a goodie. I dig it. And lastly, this is like when I mention Risk 2210 to people. Monopoly Deal. Oh, look, just because I say Risk or Monopoly does not mean it's tired, okay? Monopoly Deal, I think, is actually a fun little game. You're getting little sets. You can also steal from the other people, and people know the topic, so they'll be okay playing with you. Okay, so again, Millborn, Star Realms, Tides of Time, Fleet, Flux, Monopoly Deal, and Citadels. Guys, have a great time. I'll talk to you soon.
Every game has a story, and this is one of them. Presenting Biography of a Board Game with your host, Professor Scott Rogers.
This time I want to talk about a modern classic, Ticket to Ride. As a young boy, game designer Alan Moon grew up next to a railroad track. I never tired of watching the trains go by, he says. I often think about a game in terms of travel and routes. It's surprising how easy it is to start with a train theme and morph the game into something totally unrelated. However, this time Moon was having a problem, he says. I had just tested a design for a train game with friends, and it hadn't worked at all. I went for a walk, when suddenly the idea for Ticket to Ride just came into my head, pretty much fully formed. I couldn't wait to get home and get a prototype together. In Ticket to Ride, players collect cards of various types of train cars that they then use to claim railroad routes. The longer the route, the more points they earn. Additional points can be earned by connecting cities and building the longest continuous route. Moon created his prototype and called it Station to Station. The initial reaction was extremely positive. People who played it wanted to immediately play it again. This was proved one time when Moon felt a sharp pain during a playtest, and looking down, he noticed that a 5-inch splinter had come off the table and pierced his leg. Not able to remove it, he politely excused himself and went to the emergency room. When he returned home several hours later, the playtesters were still playing. When it came time to shop the game around to publishers, Moon encountered a similar situation. Days of Wonder co-founder Eric Hodomo remembers, "We started playing a couple of rounds. Suddenly he swept all the pieces off the board and said, 'Well, now you get the idea.' We just gasped and said, 'Hey, what are you doing? We were playing!' Days of Wonder retitled the game to Zug'em Zug, which translates to Train by Train. The English name was a little harder to come up with, according to Days of Wonder's Adrian Martineau. Ideas got bounced around, but nothing really grabbed us, and we started to grow frustrated. Eric and Mark were actually on the Paris Metro when Ticket to Ride as a name first came into their minds. It tied one of the key aspects of the game, the destination tickets, to the feel of riding the rails, and it was memorable. Also memorable was the cover art by illustrator Julien Deval, who has painted every expansion cover since. Released in 2004, Ticket to Ride has sold over 3 million copies, making it one of the top-selling modern board games of all time. The game has won over 23 awards, including the Japan Board Game Prize for Best Advanced Game, the Origins Award for Best Board Game, and the Vote and Pele Family Game of the Year in 2005. Ticket to Ride also earned Moon his second Spiel des Jahres award, which he first won in 1998 for his game Elfenland. There have been 18 expansions for Ticket to Ride, including maps of Markland, Germany, India, Africa, Asia, and Pennsylvania. Historical-themed expansions include USA 1910 and Europa 1912. The Alvin and Dexter expansion included 2 monsters that were originally designed for an unpublished map of Japan. But Moon's personal favorite is the map of Switzerland, because, as he puts it, all the tickets are always drawn. I know some people dislike the country-to-country tickets, but I love them. The game's fans must love them too, because they've created over 113 expansion maps, from ancient Greece to the land of Oz to the surface of Mars, all of which can be downloaded for free at BoardGameGeek.com. A card game version came out in 2008, and in 2014 a lavish 10th anniversary edition was released. 2016's Ticket to Ride Trains and Ships expands the game to encompass the globe. Ticket to Ride has also been translated into several computer game versions. You can play it on Xbox Live, on your iPad, iPhone, and online for free. Ticket to Ride is a fantastic gateway game for players both young and old, and truly deserves the title of Modern Classic. Next time, we'll look at that high-tech board game of the 1990s, Nightmare.
Until next time, this has been Biography of a Board Game with your host, Professor Scott Rogers.
At the Dice Tower, we provide informative and professional content to keep you coming back for more. But if that's not enough, then it's time for pure bribery. Enter our contest where you can win games and prizes. That's right, I said games. Here's the details for this week's contest.
Ooh, money!
Is that the contest jingle?
Money, money. Yes, it's been a while since we've done the contest, but we do this every year.
Oh,
Some of you may
boy.
have been turning into our podcast because you saw the advertisement in the back of the Gen Con booklet. This is a Dice Tower Network wide podcast contest, which I can't get all the words out in a row.
You're just so excited.
So this is a contest for the month of August. And so here's what happens. If you win this contest, you get a $50 gift certificate to Cool Stuff Games, which is exciting. But you also get entered into a bigger contest. Now, each of the podcasts from Dice Tower Network who's involved in this is having a contest, and they're all going to get $50 gift certificates. Yay. And we have one from our show. That's you listening. We had one from our live show. We have one from Board Game Breakfast, one from Board Game Blender, etc. Now, we're going to put all those winners together, and we are then going to, on Board Game Breakfast in September, and I don't know, it might not be the first one, it might be the second week of September, and I will draw from those, and one of those winners, instead of getting a $50 gift certificate, will get a $1,000 gift certificate.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's actually not even hyperbole on Eric's part, because that is a lot of money to spend on board games.
Yeah, it is.
$1,000 on board games. You know you've always wanted to do it. Actually, some of you probably have. But
Maybe.
But still, I think it's extremely exciting. Lots of fun. So if you want to enter our contest, now, we have not had a winner from our show yet. We've done this for 2 years.
Yeah.
I forget where the winners came from, but they did not come from our show. But that means this could be the year.
This could be it.
Also, it means if you go listen to all the different podcasts and enter all the contests, your chances go up dramatically.
It's true.
But anyway, if you want to enter our contest, you need to email us at dicetower@gmail.com. In the subject, you need to put money, money. That's 2 words. Money, space, money. If you put any other subject, you are not entered in the contest.
Right.
I don't know how to clarify this. Every time we do a contest, and I say, this is what you put in the subject, then people are like, this is the contest.
Yeah. Contest entry. No. Money. Money.
1 entry per email per person. I guess I should be more specific because some people have multiple emails. So anyhow, email us and put money, money in the subject. And then in the email, just tell us what your favorite thing is about the Dice Tower and 1 improvement you would like to see us make.
Ooh. It's a customer service survey.
Yeah, it is. And, they always, to help us better serve you.
All emails may be recorded.
No, but this is actually good for us because sometimes we do stuff and we're like, does anyone really like that? Or does anyone, maybe no one likes that? These are good ways for us to find out. And
That's
sometimes
true.
we got some of our best ideas from people saying, why don't you do this? And we're like,
yeah, that makes sense.
So that's a useful thing. So you can send those in. I will cut these off sharp on August 30th. All right? What time will I cut them off on August 30th? Whenever I feel like it.
Ooh.
So you probably should send them in by August 29th.
There you go.
And when will we announce the winner? On our show, we'll announce it the first recorded show after that point, which is not easy to determine right now.
We're still recovering.
And then the big one will be announced on Board Game Breakfast. So that is that. That's our contest. That's great and exciting. Let's go to the other end.
And now, another tale of board gaming horror.
Gather round, children. I had just returned from a vacation trip with my family when I headed over to a friend's house for a game night. Much fun was had, and towards the end of the night we began a game of Dungeon Pets, one of my favorites. The host noticed that I was not partaking of much food or drink, and said that I just wasn't feeling very well. Little did I know that was just the tip of the iceberg. Moving imps around, buying cages and food, raising our adorable little monsters. All the while I began to feel more and more nauseous and uncomfortable. I was able to finish out the game and the game night to return to my home and spend 24 hours being further uncomfortable. It turns out my family was also ill. Apparently food poisoning from a restaurant we visited during our trip. Fast forward several months later to work, where I had warmed a co-worker up to heavier strategy games, and we pull out Dungeon Pets. 20 minutes into the game, and I'm beginning to feel nauseous. After this game is finished and put away, I began to feel better. Strange. We pull it out again a few weeks later. Same thing. Apparently, the previous experience had stuck with me. I can't even pull out the board and look at the components without my body telling me that it remembers what we felt like that infamous evening months ago. I still love those cute little dungeon dwellers, and hopefully, someday, I'll be able to play with them again.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know that I've ever heard of a board game having this type of reaction. I've definitely had smells make this happen to me.
Yeah, well, board games have smells.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, we just talked about this, didn't we? A few question segments back. Of has there anything ever happened to a game that has just changed the experience entirely? And this, I certainly could see happening.
That's really interesting to me, though. Well, it hasn't happened to me yet. Like, what if it happened to you when you're playing Merchants of Venus?
Isn't that the same joke you made 3 episodes ago? You said you were going to come over and, do something terrible that would ruin my experience forever.
Eric, you know my memory only lasts for one show at the most.
It's like you're like a goldfish.
I do not remember saying that. I just remember well, here's the good thing. It means I'm consistent with my jokes.
That's true.
Except that I actually was not just joking now. I'm saying, what if something like that did happen during one of your favorite games? I think I could power through it. I think I'd be like, well, I like this game so much. Speaking of which, Eric, did you know they're coming out with another expansion for Merchants of Venus?
Wait, what?
That's a lie, but there is another one coming for Cosmic Encounter.
Why? What? That's just mean.
I think I actually made that joke
I already
before.
know about your cosmic couches.
I think I've made that joke before, too.
That's really mean.
Actually, it's weird because Z was like, aren't you excited? I said, I am excited, except I really feel like Cosmic Encounter, every time a new expansion comes out, I say, I'm very content with where the game is now.
Done.
And I really am content. But, I mean, there's more candy. I'm not going to go not eat it.
Right. Well, I found what's interesting about the new Cosmic expansion is it offers a new mechanism. Like, you can... you have dials that can keep your alliance secret until they're revealed. So instead of going around the table, you've got the little dials and everybody reveals simultaneously, which is an interesting twist.
It is, and that sounds really interesting, and so I'm curious to try that out. All right, speaking of new and interesting things, Mark is here to talk to us about a new robot game.
Here he comes, here's Mark Zielinski, he's got his own theme song. Mark Zielinski, everyone!
Hey everyone, it's Mark. I am sitting here with Gar and Callie, and they have a game here that they've got up on Kickstarter, but you will hear this post-Kickstarter called Beta Bots. And so Gar, go ahead. You know Tom is huge on the 2-minute pitch. Give it to me.
Alright, so this is a robot bidding game with a tick-that element and a negotiation element and risk-taking element. So basically, you start out in phase 0 by bidding on a robot. and every single robot has 4 different stats: agility, firepower, structure, and processor. And you, through the beta bus bidding system, you'll bid and obtain a robot card. So after you obtain a robot card, that robot is your robot for the rest of the game. So everybody starts with 40 bits, which is the currency in our game. That only isn't your currency, it's also your victory points. So if whoever has the most victory points by the end of the game will win. So there's only 2 phases in the game. After you obtain a robot card, that's the robot for the rest of the game. Phase 1 and Phase 2, in Phase 1, you either get a component card, which will boost your robot, or obtain a code card where you can mess people up or help yourselves during mission phase. So during mission, you will look at the bolded number from one of the 4 attributes, and then try to match or be greater than the attribute to pass the mission. During this phase, you can either work together with other people or help yourself to pass the mission. If you go together with a team, you have to split the reward somehow and negotiate on how you want to split the reward. So that's basically a high-level pitch of the game. Throughout the game, you can also obtain power cards to help you on missions, and so on and so forth.
There you go. Well, you did great. You came in under 2 minutes, Gar, so that's really good. So now you're concentrating on getting this funded right now, correct. And then post-Kickstarter, you'll be able to hopefully pick this game up somewhere as you guys are going along. And do you plan, if the game does fund, that you're going to have a late jump in on the Kickstarter? Or?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that'll be fantastic. But thanks for taking the time. I'm glad that you're going around and showing this game off. Colin and I did a quick demo of it, and it is fun. So I hope you guys will check this out. And, this is BetaBots. And what's the name of the company?
Zagar Games.
Zagar Games. All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's do a quick rundown here of what happened at Gen Con 2016. We talked a little bit about it in our live show, but we've had now like a week from us recording this anyway, to kind of distance ourselves from it. And I'm going to say, on a personal level, we'll start there first.
Sure.
I think Gen Con was a huge success for us. Doubling the size of our booth, I was really happy with that.
I think that was the perfect size for our booth. It gave us some room to spread out. We had a corner, which was really nice, and we could sort of wrap around and chat with as many people as possible. If there was chatting or picture-taking going on and somebody wanted to buy a promo, we weren't torn by that sort of, difference in goals. It was really the perfect size for a booth.
Yeah, it was really cool, and we had room to take pictures. We had a lot of people come by. That was very exciting. Our live show was extremely fun. It was really
goodness.
The room we got, the way they lined the people up inside, it felt so professional.
It was really, it from sort of the chaos of last year where we were trying to get seats at the last minute. They were like, you're never going to get 500 people in that room. And we're like, we have 520 something. We need chairs for them to sit in. This was far more, they were ready for the crowd because this was the premier ballroom. They had a dedicated sound crew. There was a lighting crew. There was crowd control. It was amazing that this was all there for us to use. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it just felt... They had a sound guy running the sound. Mm-hmm. They had that camera with the big... We've never done that before.
Oh, we had video screens. We had the Madonna mics. It was really cool.
Yeah. Is that what they're called, the Madonna mics?
No, that's not what they're called.
Oh, okay.
But, the sort of over-ear headset mics.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the whole thing, and you guys who were there were a fantastic audience. It was good.
It was stellar.
So for us, that was exciting. It was exciting to see everything. The convention itself, did you know, Eric, that the numbers had gone down?
Ever so slightly, I think.
Yeah, by 100 or something. It's really small.
Right, but the turnstile numbers were up. So effectively fewer individuals came through the door, but they stayed longer.
In fact, if you look at the numbers, I believe the turnstiles were over 200,000, right?
Oof, yeah.
And it's 4 days of gaming, and there's 60,000 people there. That means almost everybody was there the whole time.
Yes.
There's very few people were there less than all 4 days.
There were very few single-day badges I saw except for Sunday, which is the family day. There were a lot of single-day badges then.
The family badges, right.
Right. But I saw very few like Thursday only, Friday only, Saturday only badges. It was mostly 4 days.
So it's possible that Gen Con has hit its peak. And I think that seems legitimate because I know it's really hard to get hotels and stuff.
Yeah. It's not as much the convention hall that seems overwhelming. I think they've done well managing the crowds there, expanding into Lucas Oil Stadium. It didn't feel overly crowded inside the hall.
And in fact, yeah, they made some major changes which helped. Moving True Dungeon was great for both, I think, True Dungeon and for, giving us that huge space. True Dungeon is now over in a stadium, and I walked over and looked, and it was in a much more enclosed area. They're able to set it up better. You kind of went down a tunnel into the stadium. Kind of just gave you this whole, hey, we're in our own world over here.
Nice.
And taking them out, let them expand the exhibition hall. And in the exhibition hall, they didn't fill every single spot with it. They even left some places open, so there was some big aisles to move through.
Near the entry doors, there was sort of a large area before you hit the first few booths, just so that you could walk in and get your bearings before being in the crush of people. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, and it happened near the big booths. And some of the big booths, let's see, specifically AEG and Fantasy Flight, and who else did it? Maybe Paizo? They actually had built-in line space in their booths now.
They did. I know Paizo has done that before, but Fantasy Flight, this was the first time I had seen them do that.
Right, so the line goes around their booth like normal, and then through these built-in lines.
Right.
I'm still not convinced it's worth going to a convention to stand 2 hours in line for a game that's going to come out in a few weeks later.
Yeah, but you get it now.
I guess. But I will say that and this is just by me feeling, the exhibition hall felt more crowded on Thursday than even Saturday this year.
I would not disagree. It's at least equivalent, but it was pretty crowded on Thursday.
And that's because so much stuff sells out on Thursday.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
So if you want the stuff, you got to get it in Thursday, like Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, well, Harry Potter was 50 copies a day, and at some point, at least from Friday or maybe Saturday, from Saturday on, they were not selling to exhibitors. So I saw one guy come up in the hour before the hall opened up to the USAopoly booth and say, I've been told I have to come get this game. And they said, well, based on the badge you're wearing, sir, I can't help you because we're waiting until the hall opens and I can't sell it to an exhibitor.
I'm actually not opposed to that policy.
No.
Not selling to exhibitors as a general policy is not an awful idea because, first of all, it keeps you from, then you're like, oh, now you have to be open an hour earlier to service other exhibitors. And
exactly,
people are bothering you while you're setting up.
Yeah.
And I do understand exhibitors don't have a ton of time to go around, and that's the best time to do so.
Right.
But also, if you only have 100 copies and they already sell out before the convention opens, it seems kind of...
If they're limited, that's the way to go. I totally understand. If it's a small booth and, you're just doing a normal business at Gen Con, sure, sell to whoever you want. You're going to take whatever sales you can get. But if there is limited quantities, I totally respect needing to make that policy.
Yeah. I overall, though, the convention felt pretty cool. Now, it is true that most of what we see is the exhibit hall.
Yes.
I do try to go around and look at everything. I go look at the auction. I go look in the big gaming room. I go around and see different things. There's a video game room. They had like an arcade room. Was that there last year?
They always have a video game. You're talking about the hall with the racing chairs and...
No, not that. They had like a place where there was Q-Bird and all that stuff.
The coin-op arcade, that was sort of along the way toward True Dungeon, right?
No, there was arcade games on the way to True Dungeon. But there was also a room full of them where you could pay $4 to go in and play as much as you wanted.
Oh.
Per hour. $4 an hour, which I think is worth it.
That's pretty cool. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't go in because it would have required... I would have gone in. If it didn't require a generic ticket, then I'd have to go find a generic ticket and buy one.
Yeah.
If they had just taken $4 right there at the door, I would have paid it in a second to go in. But there was also the halls felt like you could move through them quickly. They moved the parade to a different spot. It actually went outside this year.
Interesting.
And other than that, I was pretty happy with how the whole convention felt. It felt excited and crowded and tiring, but it always feels that every year. And it just seemed like there was a fun excitement in the air. People aren't getting jaded yet with gaming.
Yes.
And to me, it was interesting that many of the people that we talked to, many of the people came by and said, oh, I've been, you guys got me into gaming this year or last year.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of new people in the hobby.
And a lot of people coming by and saying, this is my first Gen Con. This is you guys talked me into coming to a convention. There were a lot of first-timers, both into gaming and at Gen Con that we ran into. Maybe they're just all coming to our booth.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a contest about that sometime where people, like, what's the one thing you wish people told you about a convention before you went, or something like that. Because it would be interesting. We make a lot of stereotypes about conventions and how people act at conventions, but for the most part, it's just fun to talk to people at conventions.
Yeah.
And just see the different things, and you see really strange and unusual outfits and cool outfits, all kinds of weird, interesting booths. If you like games at all, and it's not just games there, but so many cool accessories and stuff.
Yeah.
My daughter wanted Flash earrings for her birthday, as in the superhero Flash.
Okay.
I can find those at Gen Con.
Sure.
And I did. So I'm a hero.
Nice.
It was also exciting for me to bring Melody.
Yeah.
That was really fun to do stuff with her and hang out with her. And she's old enough now that I didn't have to worry about her.
Right.
Like, oh, no, what's she going to do? Where is she? Well, she's 16. She can move from the hotel to the convention center by herself and things like that.
Yeah. And she seemed to be having a good time, and she had a big grin on her face for a good portion of the show.
Yeah, so, all right. That was what I thought about Gen Con. And like I said, we're going to we're going to be spending the next weeks and stuff talking about the games and stuff. Lots of new games. So let's talk about one of the hotter publishers at Gen Con, but an older game from them. Not that old, actually.
Hey, board gamers. BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with more Louisiana flavor. Down here in the South, storytelling is celebrated. My father was called a raconteur, which is Cajun for a storyteller, and he could spin a yarn with the best of them. So today, let's talk about games where you can be a raconteur. I'll bet your game group loves Euro games, and especially town-building games, but wish they had a little more flavor. Hey, I like Machikoro as much as the next guy, but I can't be the only gamer who finds it a little hollow. How about Puerto Rico? Sure, it's fun to pretend to be a settler, growing corn and indigo and building purple buildings all over your little piece of the island. But be honest, do you ever really feel like you're exploring or building up your little community? If your group likes building out settlements, but your game nights are getting a little bland, well then, spice it up with Above and Below by Ryan Lockett. Above and Below is a 2.15 release from Red Raven Games for 2 to 4 players that plays in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. The game is designed, produced, illustrated, play-tested, written, and sold by that Renaissance man, Ryan Lockett. That's right, he not only designed the game, but drew all the whimsical artwork too. Lockett really has a unique art style. The characters in the game are fun right out of the box. When my son first looked at the cards, he immediately started giving them a clan name and chose an entire group of big mustaches as his starting villagers. Ryan calls Above and Below a mixture of 2 of his favorite types of games, storytelling and grand village building. He compared it to a combination of Tales of the Arabian Nights and City of Iron. As he has said, the goal of the game is to build the most impressive new village, and you do this by exploring the caverns below your village, collecting as many different types of goods as possible, and constructing buildings and outposts both in your village and in the caverns you explore. Both parts of the game, the village building and the cavern exploring, they are equally as fun. During each turn, you have the option to recruit more villagers, build more buildings, and harvest the goods you can produce from your buildings. Sure, that sounds sort of like your standard worker placement engine building fare, right? So why is Above and Below so much more spicier? Because Ryan brilliantly added the best part, exploring the caverns below your village. Each time you encourage at least 2 of your villagers to go spelunking, they will meet different denizens of the caverns and have short adventures. They may be asked to save a maiden in distress, or break up a fight, or explore dangerous areas of the caverns, or, hey, there's over 200 plus adventures here, so you'll just have to play the game to find out. If your group is into city building games, and your friends have a little fun, enthusiasm, and maybe even some theater in them, then this game is for you. If your game group likes Machikoro or Puerto Rico, and are ready for the next step, then maybe it's time to spice up your game nights with Above and Below. Until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Now, one of the reasons I play games is to not be stressed, right? They're like stress relief, you know, and there are some games that almost go too far in the other direction. You're playing it, you're like, I don't care who wins. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes a card game feels that way. You're just playing this game and you're like, it's my turn, and you have fun, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's okay to have some stress and like, oh, this game stresses me out,
Right.
but I'm like on the edge of my seat. And so today we're talking about our top 10 stressful games. I specifically on my list put stressful games, but games where I enjoy and thrive on that stress.
Okay.
If I do not like the stress of the game, and I see one on Eric's list that stresses me out for that reason, I did not put it on my list. That's just, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for people to put on a list. That's just what I chose to do because I want to talk about games where they're stressful, but I like it.
I have a bit of a transition. I'm going to mention a few that I don't enjoy, but still stress me out, and I couldn't leave off of a list called stressful games. But then we get to some that are more delicious stress later on.
So you're doing the Healy style of top 10.
Sure.
All right. So we did this in 2010, you're saying?
2010, episode 169. So I was only 5 episodes in as co-host.
Well, that's actually, that's like almost exactly 300 episodes ago.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Well timed, sir.
That was on purpose. You know what? I should actually do that. I should look at the episode we did 300 times ago. Actually, I think I have a top 10 scheduled for almost the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I'm not changing that. That took a lot of work.
Plus, people have sent in segments already. I mean, it's like Grand Central Station over here.
Yeah. That's true. All right, well, here we go. Let's find out what our top 10 are.
Number 10.
Back in 2010, and the same here, I have to start the list off with In the Year of the Dragon. This is a game about mitigating disaster. You flip up one of those tiles, and it says that whoever doesn't feed their people at the end of the round is going to lose significant points, and you have to work on making sure that you have everything you need, or you need fireworks tokens at the end of this round, so you have to work so hard to do that. And it's a pretty nasty smack in the head if you don't fulfill the requirement for that particular round, and that can be a little oppressive. I guess I don't dislike In the Year of the Dragon, but it's certainly not one of my favorite games. It's a bit of an ordeal to get through. I appreciate the challenge, but it does stress me out. In the Year of the Dragon, both then and now, my number 10.
I'm now rushing to look. I didn't look at this old list at all. I have 0 crossover,
Okay.
but I think it's also because I have a couple games on the list that I don't like that much that I put there as stress-inducing. Wow, that's really strange. No crossover at all. Well, here we go. My number 10 is Spyfall. Now, Spyfall is a party game, and Spyfall, I'm being very specific here, when you're the spy.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're the spy and Spyfall is a really fun game. I love this game. You're trying to guess who the spy is and ask questions going around the table. And you get to when you're the spy, you're sitting there thinking, okay, I must ask a question that seems legitimate, and I got to ask it in a very natural way. And when someone else asks a question and someone answers in a way and everyone laughs, I need to laugh at the same time and be like, oh, what a stupid answer. I think you're the spy.
Yep.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Yes.
I don't know. It's fun stress, but woo. And especially if you're the spy and you just happen to be like, Tom, you go first. Oh. Sure. What's the weather like?
Going first, and something, and you pick one of those sort of catch-all answers. And what's the weather like? And it's the sewer. You know, that's always fun.
And people look at you and you're like, they know I'm the spy. So fun stress, but definitely stressful, Spyfall.
Yes.
Number 9.
Number 9. I almost didn't want to put this on the list, but I had to. In a list that talks about stress, I have to talk about the game that anytime someone mentions it, my blood pressure increases, and that is Citadels. Now, there's a new
seriously,
version.
Come on now.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm saving my voice on this one.
Fine.
There's a new version on the way. And I did take the opportunity to get a really good picture at Gen Con in front of the banner for the new version of Citadels. I'm going to try it. When I get a chance to play the new edition, I'm going to give it another go because I should. I know I should. But every time I think about this game, I just get all worked up. And I need to calm down, give it a whirl, and just try and play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And maybe the assassin won't shoot me every single time this time. Maybe that won't happen. But I'm going to leave myself open to the possibility that another play of Citadels will work out. But right now, it's my number 9. Citadels.
Okay, that's fine. It just seems very, I don't know, very meek and mild there.
No, it's good.
All right, my number 9 is Carnival Zombie. Carnival Zombie, I mean, there's different things that cause stress in games. One is, when your people are like suspicious of you, that suspicion type thing. Another one is a co-op game when you feel like everyone's going to die. And Carnival Zombie does that. And these zombies just keep coming in. And it gets more and more stressful. And then you have to take the zombies you kill and drop them on this pile, but not knock them all over the table because then they come back to life. And it's a stupid little dexterity game in the middle of the zombie game. And you're like, why is this here? It's a dumb game. It's stupid dexterity. Why would they put dexterity in a zombie game? Why am I dropping these cubes here? It makes no thematic sense. Oh, I'm shaking. That's why.
Uh-huh.
And I like it. I don't play Carnival Zombie as much these days because it is quite lengthy, and also a second edition is on the horizon, so I look forward to seeing that. But man, a game that makes me feel like I'm fighting off zombies, Carnival Zombie for sure.
Number 8.
My number 8 is on the list because I still don't really understand the game, and that's Diplomacy. This game is stressful to begin with because it's all about forming alliances with your neighbors and deciding when to betray those alliances or which ones to stick with till the very end. You never know what the motivation of your neighbors is. And having that on top of a military game that I never fully understood about what the consequences of different moves are, and being stuck in the middle of that, I couldn't play the meta game. I couldn't play the alliance game because I still didn't understand what the consequences were of moving this piece here to that piece there. And then I got Bonacor yelling at me like, why haven't you answered my email? Is our relationship over? And then he betrayed me, which is another thing. Anyway, this is sort of a catch-all for games that you don't fully grasp. And it can be very stressful to be swimming with sharks when you don't have any flippers. Diplomacy, my number 8.
Huh. Yeah, I this was actually my number 1 several years when we last did this. But since I took out games that I don't enjoy, it's gone. Yeah. But definitely stressful. All right, my number 8 is a brand new game. Captain Sonar.
Yes.
Now, Captain Sonar is a cooperative team-building game, and I could have put Space Alert Dice Duels in here, too.
You mean Space Cadets?
Space Cadets Dice Duels, sorry. Although I could put Space Alert on my list, too. There's lots of these real-time game types things. And Captain Sonar, you have a team of people going against another team of people in a submarine, and it's essentially 4-player battleship, but simultaneously at the same time. Which I'm repeating myself now. But yes, you're making moves, and you're frantically trying to figure out where the other person is before they find you. And you're working together as a team, and everyone's like, and all of a sudden they say, stop firing torpedo, and you're like, I hope they're missing, but they probably aren't. And it's just very fun, but in a cool, stressful way, because you're sitting there trying to find them before they find you. And this game does such a great job at bringing the theme of being in a submarine to life. I really enjoy it. That's Captain Sonar.
Yeah, I like this one a lot as well. This one just barely missed being on the list, but I had to sort of bump it to fit the ones I didn't like as much. if that makes any sense.
Number 7.
My number 7 is XCOM, the board game. And the part of this game that I really like, I'm not a fan of the event resolution, the dice rolling and the just seeing all of your plans fall apart. But I like the stressful part of this, where you are running the app and yelling out commands to your teammates and moving things around the board, making very quick, rapid decisions, and dealing with all of the events of the game over that, whatever it is, like 5 minutes or so of prep in each round. That's some delicious stress. Everyone is on their guard and listening carefully for the orders and making those quick decisions, those tough decisions as the timer's ticking away. That's pretty cool. Number 7, XCOM, the board game.
Yep. I understand that one. XCOM is stressful. I'm going to say for my number 7, though, something completely different. And this is a different kind of stress. And that's the stress of making decisions. And this is For the Crown. For the Crown is that really wonky game that mixes deck building with chess. Now, I already find chess to be stressful. In fact, I believe chess was on my original list. Because I just sit there like, I make a move and my opponent's like, oh, thank you, checkmate. I'm like, what? Okay,
yeah.
right? So this game has that same thing, but then there's deck building, and you're like, okay, I think I'm safe. I'm going to buy a cool card. And you're like, I'm going to put this queen on the board. and I like it. It's certainly not a game for everyone. In fact, it's hardly talked about anymore, but I still think it's a really cool idea. Deck building mixed with chess sounds like it should be awful. But the gameplay comes across well, but I still sit there the whole time. I can tell when a game gives me stress when I'm totally engrossed in it. Like, doesn't matter whose turn it is, and I'm thinking. And then you go, is it your turn? No, it's not my turn, and it's your turn, but I'm still thinking really hard because one wrong mistake, and we're all dead. Or just me, actually. But, So that's For the Crown.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. Tough decisions, because if I recall, you have to destroy the card. You trash the card in order to put the piece on the board. So do I get rid of this awesome action card to put a queen out? Or do I need to hang on to that awesome action in my hand? Tough decisions.
Number 6.
My number 6 was my number 1 in the 2010 list, and that's Battlestar Galactica. BSG is a long game. It certainly can be, and there's a lot of tough decisions to make, even without the Cylons involved. You got dangers, you've got battling, you got to take care of those raiders as they come at the Battlestar Galactica. But every decision made by everyone around the table is constantly questioned as you go. Even just the decision to go out and shoot some raiders. Is that really the best thing to do right now? There's only 2 of them out there. Really? I mean, there's somebody just boarded the ship. Why are you leaving? Every decision gets questioned, and you never quite know if you can trust the person sitting next to you, and you have a long haul to get through, and sometimes that tension can last the entire game. Battlestar Galactica is a stressful game. My number 6.
I agree. No. Well, how's that funny?
It sounds like you're having trouble agreeing with me. Oh, that's another
I
good
agree. One. No. I'm just trying to think why I didn't put this one on my list. It is stressful, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Maybe this is one of those games I can take it or leave it. I mean, like this, I can take the stress out of it. Like, yeah, I'm a Cylon, but they'll figure it out eventually. I don't know how to explain it. My number 6 is Lost Cities. Now, this might not seem very stressful, but it is. Because I know that my wife is holding the card I need. Just discard it. And you don't even know I want that card. I'm trying to pretend I don't want it. Discard it. Now, Lost Cities doesn't seem like it's as stressful of a game, right? You just have 8 cards in your hands, and you're drawing cards and discarding cards and playing cards. But, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, all right, I don't want to tip what cards I'm playing. All right, fine, I'm going to play this red 2. The red 3, where is that red 4? No one has it. I'll play the red 5. Then she discards the red 4.
The red 4.
I knew it! So, I really like it. And at Gen Con, I got the 6th color.
Yes, I got a copy of that as well. I'm excited.
That's really interesting to me. It never even occurred to me to play the game with 6 colors. I'm definitely going to try that out soon. I'm very pumped about trying that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Lost Cities. Super stressful.
Number 5.
My number 5 is the cooperative timed dice rolling game Fuse. You've got your dice, and each round or not even round, it's a 10-minute game. And each turn, you'll grab a certain number of dice, one for each player from the bag, roll them very quickly, and everybody has to choose one. And you're trying to match them with the cards you have in front of you, matching certain patterns or building pyramids or whatever, following the rules on your cards. So, depending on what the roles are, you have to make a quick decision. Which die is the best for me? Which one do I want to leave for my teammates? You have to make lots of quick decisions. And at some points, your whole team is staring at you going, pick a die. Just one of them. I need that 5, but you can take whichever one you want. And there's a lot of tension as you try and get through these cards. And it's a fun time. I really like Fuse, my number 5.
Yeah, I like Fuse too, but I have another game on my list that I think gives me the same feel, which I'll talk about very shortly. My number 5 is Werewolf, because Werewolf just causes this kind of stress, right? You're playing it, and if you're not the werewolf, you're sitting there thinking, who is the werewolf? And the person that you're whispering to, they're lying to you. You know they are. They're a werewolf. But if you are a werewolf, it's stressful because you know everyone's looking at you suspiciously.
Right.
And they'll go around and go, Tom's been kind of quiet, and Tom is never quiet. What are you talking about? I'm always quiet in games, guys. And then you're dead. You're dead from that point on. I love Werewolf, and it's fun stress, but the whole, trying to figure out who everybody else is, the game does it like no other. I mean, One Night Ultimate Werewolf is fine, but it's more of a quick version of that. Werewolf drags it out and makes that stress the sweeter.
Right.
Number 4.
My number 4 is the same as Tom's number 4. Once again, we've reached synergy with Escape, Curse of the Temple. I think this is what you were talking about just a second ago.
Right,
Tom.
I like Fuse a lot, but if you say Escape or Fuse, I'll probably pick Escape.
Okay. Well, I guess I would too, because I moved it farther along on the list. But you are trying to work your way through a temple, and you've got your action dice that allow you to move and unlock doors and achieve quests. But you're listening to that soundtrack, and at some point you hear the gong, and you have to rush back to the center. And so everyone is carefully listening and trying to communicate, and you get locked, and it's like, I'm stuck in the room, somebody help me, and somebody has to come help you and unlock your dice. It's more delicious tension. Another 10-minute long game.
Oh, you're done already. I was just waiting for you. Okay, yeah, I agree. It really is. And I think the soundtrack is like 50% of the tension.
Sure.
Escape. And you're like, already, and that gong just makes you shiver. And I really do like Escape. Now, Escape is actually not my favorite game in this type of genre at this point in time, but it is a lot of fun, and it is only 10 minutes, and it's very simple and easy to teach. But I know this game's stressful because I'll be like, hey, kids, let's play Escape. And they're like, no, Daddy, it scares us. I'm like, it's not a scary game.
Right.
We get too stressed.
Or you get through one round and like, all right, let's do that again. That was only 10 minutes. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's just put that aside for a second and play Carcassonne or something.
Yep. That's how you know it's stressful. Escape.
Number 3.
My number 3 is Factory Fun, which, when you first look at it, when you think back on playing Factory Fun, you're thinking about the positioning of the tiles and sort of the Rube Goldberg aspect and moving one piece of goo to another and translating them into other things. But the mechanic of selecting those machines, each round a number of these machines will be face down, and you flip them all up simultaneously, and you are trying to calculate which one fits into your factory floor plan most efficiently, what will earn you points, what you need in the first place, and trying to make this decision before anybody else does because you are racing to grab a tile as quickly as possible. And then inevitably you make this decision, grab a tile, and then realize, no, this is the mirror image of what I need, and now I have to run pipe halfway across my factory to make it fit. Factory Fun, my number 3.
Is Factory Funner more stressful?
I haven't played Factory Funner, and I hear that the print run ran out, and now it's hard to find.
Yeah, well, I don't think it probably did that well.
It must not. I didn't even know it existed until I saw the promo show up on Board Game Geek. I went, wait, what? There's a sequel?
If you just watch these SM previews. All right, so my number 3 is a game that is slowly replacing Escape for me, and that's Project Elite.
Ooh.
Really in love with Project Elite. It's so much fun. In this game, I don't know if I've talked about it here on the show, Eric, have I?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, Project Elite is a game, it's a real-time strategy game. It's a real-time board game. And in this game, you essentially, each person is some sort of marine, think aliens. And there's these aliens pouring through these hallways. And they're fighting you a little bit, but they're mostly just trying to get through the door. And if they get through the door, you lose. So you got to stop these guys from getting through the door. And this game comes with all these miniatures, so you set everything up. There might be a boss. There's different things showing up on how difficult the game is. And you also have something you need to do. You might need to go blow up some portals or whatever. And then you play the game, and the game is like 8 rounds, and each round you set everything up, and then there's 2 minutes. And during that 2 minutes, a timer is going by, and you're just all playing simultaneously, and you're rolling dice, and when you roll these dice as quickly as you can, you're like, oh, if I roll this combination of dice, I can activate this gun, and I can shoot an alien. Okay, I'm shooting him, I roll dice, missed him, let's do it again. Or I rolled movement dice, so now I can move on the board. So it's kind of like Escape in that way. So you're activating different things and moving around. But if you roll these alien symbols, then you have to move an alien one spot closer to the door. So you can re-roll as much as you can, but but the aliens aren't that powerful. The bosses are powerful, but most of them aren't. So you're like, yeah, and you're just at your machine guns or laser guns and just, you're blowing them all away, but there's like a gazillion of them, and they just keep coming on, and you have to fight them off, and then eventually you win, and it's exciting, and everyone high-fives each other, or you lose, and it's not so fun. But it's such a great rush, and the stress, and this is a great co-op game because there's no way for anyone to be an alpha gamer because I have no time to look at what you're doing, and then we look at when the 2 minutes are up, I look up and I just see alien bodies are all over the place, and I'm like, great job, everybody, let's do it again, and it's so much fun. Yeah, it really is entertaining, but stressful, but in a fun way, and I really like it. That's Project Elite.
Huh, I'll have to give that one a try.
Number 2.
My number 2 was my number 3 when we did this list all those years ago, and that's Age of Steam. Age of Steam has a bit more of a slow burn of stress. You're presented with a map. You have sort of a plan of what you want to do, and you have to get calculating how many loans am I going to take? Because if you don't work hard in those early rounds, you will sink. You need to work hard to get solvent, to start making more money than you are spending, and it's swimming upstream right off the bat. And based on what map you choose, that can be a very difficult struggle. If you're playing the basic map, not too bad. You work hard, you should be able to make money by the first few turns. But some other maps, you're going to be working very hard, and that is a tremendous amount of stress. But again, the delicious kind. Age of Steam, my number 2.
Yeah, it definitely is stressful, but I'm finding this less delicious as time goes by. My number 2 is Eric's number 1. So
What?
That will remain hidden until he reveals it. And then I will shoot him.
And finally, number 1.
No, you won't, because I used the holo projector, so... Spectre Ops is my number 1 and Tom's number 2. The hidden movement game of hide and seek from Emerson Matsuuchi and Plaid Hat Games. This one is a blast. I cannot wait until the app comes out for this. They were showing this off at Gen Con. It looks lovely. As you are the agent and trying to escape from these hunters, and please don't go down that hallway. Please don't go down that hallway. Oh no! And just watching the board and hoping they don't take that one extra step that direction to block off your escape route, or please go the other direction. Please don't fall for my ruse of sending out a holographic decoy. It's really fun, and you just sit there staring at your sheet and at the board for a good 90 minutes as you work your way through this game. I love it. Delicious stress, wonderful stress. Spectre Ops, my number 1.
Yeah, I really like this game. Emerson showed me the app that's coming out for it, which I'm really excited about to be able to plan your moves using the app as the bad guy. Or is the good guy? I'm still confused, Eric. Who's the bad guy?
Well, it's not about good and bad. It's about motivation.
Here's the deal, though. I like Spectre Ops, but I think it's only really stressful as the hidden person. The not hidden team, I don't find it as stressful. But when you're hidden,
that's not as stressful. You're right.
Sweat's pouring down my face.
Right.
especially because they sit there and they point at the spot you are on.
Yes.
And they say, I think he could be here.
It
And
could
you're
be
like,
here.
No, I'm not. I'm not there. All right. You guys are so dumb. I'm like 20 spaces away from that. I really enjoy this game. I mean, I could put a lot of games in this category, Scotland Yard and, that sort of thing. But this one I think is the stressfulest, the bestest.
Yeah. At least until you get to your number 1.
Oh, that's right. That was your number 1. So that was my number 2. My number 1 is Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, which I'm guessing Eric has not played yet.
No, we actually, Mr. Goldfish, I did play this a few episodes back and enjoyed it, but it wasn't as stressful. I think the humans had an easier time escaping in that first play. So I need to get into the harder maps before it gets really nitty-gritty stressful for me. But please continue.
This is going to become my new name here. I must try to work on those memory skills. All right, I'm really good at remembering these games and designers and publishers.
You figured out designers, publishers, games, and just left out conversations. It's fine. It's fine. You should start taking notes.
I know your name.
Good. Thanks.
I'm really worried about when I get old, what's going to happen. So anywho, this game, the whole time I'm the alien. It's mostly when you're the human. But even when you're alien, you're stressful. But as a human, you're like, where are they? This game, it's just pen and paper, or now it's erasable markers and pads. But it does such a great job at placing you in that space station, breathing heavily, knowing from any corner someone's coming to get you. I'm so impressed that the game has that much in it. Love it. Super stressful, but so much fun. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. That gives me 2 titles on my list that start with the word escape.
Nice. Well done.
I did not plan that. But maybe just having escape in your title is stressful.
You're saying that it is stressful to escape. That makes sense.
Well, let's see what our contributors say.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Chin at the Metal Meeple, and for me, not a lot of games cause a lot of stress when I'm playing them. However, when I'm playing the Agent Inspector Ops, it's very nerve-wracking because unlike other hidden movement games, you just feel a lot closer to the people that's trying to find you and that are about to find you and about to step on your toes. So it's a really fun game. I really like it. I actually don't like to play the agent as much. Not really because of that, because I just like the communication that the other side has. So that's mine. Spectre Ops.
Hey guys, Broken Meeple here, and for stress-inducing games, there is no better than XCOM the board game. This is stress in as good a way as possible. For half of the game, you are frantically shouting at each other. You, research, now, 10 seconds, send this guy on this mission, take this card, UFO's coming in, we're gonna die! And then you calm down, resolve everything, and then next turn, you do it all again. Love this one of my favourite games of all time, XCOM, the board game.
Hi, it's Sean from Game Pit. My choice for this is obvious. It's Agricola. Nothing gives me a headache so much as Agricola for obvious reasons, and it's an obvious choice. Ronan.
Mine's less obvious, I think. My choice is going to be Pictomania. Now, the story behind this is I went on a winning streak in about my first 8 games of Pictomania. Somehow I won, so I got myself all worked up. People call me the champion, and I have to win it in a game in which you can't completely control what's happening because there's lots of interaction. So I just get myself worked up, and people don't get my pictures right, and I start getting upset. It's very difficult.
Bless you.
Hey everybody, Anthony here from Board Gamers Anonymous. For me, the most stress-inducing game I've ever played definitely has to be Agricola. This game has so much tension to it, mostly stemming from the fact that if you don't feed your people, you might as well not even try. It's one of those games where you can make a decision early on that affects you for the entire game, possibly causing you to lose. It's really tense. The first couple times you play it, you won't even realize how you lost. But even after that, even after you've played it half a dozen times, it's extremely stressful, just hoping you make the right decisions and have everything perfectly lined up so you don't make that almighty mistake of not having enough food.
Hey everybody, it's the Board Game Point of View, and the game that stresses us out the most is Escape, Curse of the Temple. Rolling those dice like a madman. Dice cascading off of the table, getting lost,
getting trapped. And there's the whole gone, rush back to the room.
Right?
Doors are closing, you might just die at any moment. It's just chaos.
Right? And if you actually manage to get all of those little gems back to where they belong, the mad rush to the exit as it's closing. Insane.
It's like Indy running away from the boulder.
It really is. It really is. It really is. Is it though?
Rebecca and Hunter here from Family Showdown. My most stressful game is... It's got foreboding music, dice rolls that can lock you out of play, and relying on other people to help you at the very last minute.
Well, I was thinking of a more positive type stress, the type you see in a rowdy, rambunctious party game. For me, Pit is the craziest of them all. By the end of the round, we are yelling and screaming at each other in a positive way.
Hey, this is Paul Owen of Dice Tower News. The game that stresses me out the most is Acquire. But that's probably because I only ever get to play it in competition at PresCon or until recently WBC. With hidden stocks and money against some of the best players in the Mid-Atlantic region and perhaps one of the best economic games of the last 50 years, I feel a lot of pressure to bring my A-game to the table for Acquire.
Hey, Tony and Marty from Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and the stress inducer in my life is Puerto Rico, because I cannot believe, Marty, that there are times when we're sitting there playing, and it's like, don't you fill that ship full up with corn? Don't you dare pick that roll. That's the one I want. Man, I really needed that extra gold. So for me, Puerto Rico. How about you?
Co-op games are usually what get me. Games like Eldritch Horror and XCOM, towards the end of the game, it's tense. Everyone is standing around the table, watching each dice roll, watching each card flip, just hoping for a chance at victory. And usually we don't get it.
It's Roy Canday from Epic Gaming Night, and for me, it's the real-time game XCOM. The commander's trying to balance the budget, the scientist is trying to research the correct technologies, the central officer's trying to keep up with the app, and the squad leader's trying to make sure we're completing missions and keeping the aliens out of the base. There's always aliens spawning everywhere, and it's highly stressful, but I love it. XCOM.
Jonathan from the Snakes Cast. Strategy games are kind of like multiple choice tests. There's a limited number of options to choose from. You pick one, you're done. Pretty relaxing. Party games, by contrast, a lot of the time are more like essay questions. They're open-ended, and that makes them a lot more stressful for a lot of people, myself included, and none more so than Once Upon a Time. You have to make up a fairy tale on the spot. It has to make sense the way a fairy tale makes sense. You can't repeat yourself. You can't even hesitate in the middle of a sentence. That is a ton of stress.
This is Trent Hamill with the Board Game Family, and the most stress-inducing game for us is Escape the Curse of the Temple. Sure, it only takes 10 minutes to play, but those 10 minutes are filled with seriously heightened stress. Our oldest son, who's now in his 20s, says he'll never play it again because of how much stress it causes him. But that's too bad for him, because I still quite enjoy this frantic dice-rolling race to get out. Escape the Curse of the Temple.
This is Brian from Cult of the Old. Galaxy Trucker stresses me out. I love the game, mind you, but with my vision at about 1% left, trying to find all those dark pieces and rotate them the right way, under a time frame, oh man, I find it stressful. Now, it's worth it, mind you, and if the ship blows up and blows in half, you yell out, "God!" But still, in the setup phase, I'm really stressed, but it's worth it.
Okay, I was actually surprised to hear Agricola mentioned twice.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I always feel like I have to feed my people, and it's kind of annoying. I just never felt that stressed about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly never thought Acquire was stressful. Or Once Upon a Time. I'm just kind of surprised by some of these. But hey, everyone has different things that trigger the stress, so that's kind of cool.
Right. And Galaxy Trucker was one that I had considered as well, although at that point, you're going to blow up, and so I think I've just let that one go.
That's right.
I build the best ship I can and hope for the best.
I have zero stress in Galaxy Trucker because I know I'm going to get blown up, so what do I care?
Right.
All right, the People's Choice. Number 10, Hanabi.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a cooperative game. You're like, am I playing the right card? Number 9, Spyfall.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, Robinson Crusoe.
Yep.
Now, Robinson Crusoe, I don't feel a ton of stress because, again, I assume we're going to die. So it's like, we lost all our food? Figures.
But there's always the hope playing Robinson that maybe this time's going to be different.
Yeah, maybe. Number 7, Spectre Ops.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, Pandemic Legacy.
Certain months, I would agree.
I also agree. We can't tell you why. Although, just as a warning, soon, and I don't know when, Eric and I are going to do a complete spoiler-filled thing of Pandemic Legacy. Probably when Eric finishes it.
Yeah, well, I hope so. All right, Eric, stay put. We're going to ruin it for you. What? No, we're not ready yet.
But you're almost done, right?
We're close. We have either 2 or 3 games left.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so that's coming. Anyway, 5, Dead of Winter, which I considered. I certainly considered it.
Mm-hmm.
4, Agricola. So I guess you and me are unique in this regard. 3, The Resistance. 2, Pandemic. That's interesting. I can see, although I think people just like putting Pandemic on these lists.
Right.
It's stressful-ish, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly it can get that way, depending on what the situation on the board is.
Especially when you're like down it and you only have one disease to cure, and you need to not draw anything bad until
as long as these 3 cities don't erupt, we're okay. But if they do, we're done. Yeah.
Right. And then number 1, Escape.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the clear winner. Since we both put it on our list, several contributors picked it. People's Choice picked it as number 1. Escape, definitely the most stressful game of all time. Hey, I think we're done.
We are.
I've already forgotten the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, folks, we really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us back in normalcy. We're going to next time to go back to another normal episode. This is super confusing for us, but we're getting back on track. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 470, was recorded on August 12th, 2016. Coming up next week, what is your go-to game when packing for a vacation? Find out what our contributors have to say. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. If a catastrophic event has turned your game upside down, find out how we can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom and me with assistance from Jason Thompson, Itai Perez, Eric Matthews, and Rob Searing. Protective card sleeving services provided by Champions of Mint Card. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network, including Boards and Swords, Start Space, The Long View, The Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, and Board Game University. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Should we sing another song?
We could. I mean, it's sort of expected at this point. You think that there's any new listeners that saw the live show or heard the live show episode that think that we do that every episode?
I hope not. Or they say these guys aren't really good singers. Maybe they should get a new career.
Stop that whole board game thing and move on to something else.